Welcome back to our coverage of round number 1 of the Pirelli Series as part of the Africa Off-Road Championship, proudly brought to you by N1 4x4, Cruiser and Toyota, your four-wheel drive experts. So at the end of last year, the Klerksdorp 150 was a qualifying event, and they had to get themselves lined up. It was time to get serious. Let's go catch up with Mark from Pirelli and talk about the championship.
Hi, my name is Mark Eatwell. I'm the motorsport manager for Pirelli Tyre South Africa. We've decided to change our whole strategy when it comes to motorsport. Our whole idea for the year is to actually try and build up the sport from the grassroots and to see what we can do to actually help each individual to make it affordable to come racing. So for us, this is the perfect setting background, and so far I'm very proud to be here. We like to build it from each race and make things happen, and let's grow the sport and let's help the people actually enjoy the sport and make it affordable for everybody.
Perfect partner having Pirelli on board as part of the ever-growing Africa Off-Road Championship. Huge numbers, and this was all based on the success of last year's championship. So Flip was more than chuffed. Over 60 riders lining up on the bike side, and a big entry coming in from the quads as well. A riders briefing to tell the riders what they were in for, but everyone was going to be in for an absolutely epic and mostly dust-free day of racing. The Klerksdorp 150 was a sprint event. We also had the time trial, which gave us the lineup to see who was going to be going out first. And this is how they qualified from last year, meaning it was going to be Rowan Lindsay and Bury Smith that were the first riders to set off and open up the first lap of racing. Lindsay was the man to beat at the end of last season, so he was having no problems with running clear air out front. A very strong navigator. They'd be chased down by JJ Brits and Jan Rudevet. And even the pit conditions there, just showing you this is absolute primo conditions. Pre-rain, perfection. Johan Gray, one of our top masters, and Peter Karam, the man that makes the trip across the border from Botswana every single event, and they would be looking for wins in their respective categories. Bu Levy, who came good at the end of last year, the Klerksdorp native, would be going out with Gavin Breckel. Gavin, a very strong rider, always going to be a threat for a top 5 overall. So we'd watch to see where Gavin was going to be lining up come the end of the first lap. Jacques Leroux and Johan Buerta would line up side by side. 4-stroke versus 2-stroke, and a smaller capacity Kawasaki machine would be eating early dust. Nice format to see the guys lining up side by side. Samantha Van Kirk would be going out to see if she could take the win in the ladies event with Dion Fenter. And yes, that is Dion Fenter of off-road car racing fame, swinging a leg on the two-wheel sides. Dylan Van Lansberg, a very, very strong rider, should be able to come into the beginning of the season in strong form, and he would go out on the elbow of Johan Marais. How cool is it to see all these brand new bikes? Nico Visa and Johan Lubber also going out on different capacity machines. And come the end of lap number 1, the track would be chewed up, rutted up to perfection. Johnny McLean and Bernard Van Mokte. Yeah, it's a family affair. We just talked about the little Van Mokte coming out of the kiddies race. And this is one of the stories of Africa Off-Road Championships in association with N1 4x4, Cruiser and Toyota, your four-wheel drive experts, along with new sponsor Pirelli. It's very much a family affair. Clenhams and Kaywood, also family names that we'll see spread out across a couple of categories. They would go out and do the chase down. Van der Delpoort, after some injuries late in the season last year, was back on the 2-stroke 250 Yamaha, and he would be going out with Jean-Ray Visser. Delpoort, a very exciting rider to watch out for, and these kind of short laps would definitely play into his bag of tricks. Peter Fourie and Hendro Buerta would go out there as bikes 538 and 34 to go and do the chase down. And once again, the gods were smiling on us. Some late season rain, and constant rain at that, had done some perfect watering of the track. Calvin Perry and Herman Buerta had qualified a slightly lower down at the end of last season, so they'd be qualifying outside of the top 20 and trying to ride themselves up the order. Good support from all the regional shops, Rad Motors and Klerksdorp Motors, as well as all the Yamaha dealerships and everyone else involved in the industry, starting to really see the benefit of being involved in the Africa Off-Road Championship. Donovan Mengel and Dave Perry getting the job done out there. And the brothers from the 4x4 Mega World squad, Jason and Dylan Fenter, they'd have their work cut out to try and catch up to Dion a little bit further up the road. Dion actually has a big background in motorbikes, and Dylan and Jason just doing a chase down. They'll be trying to team up together and work well together to spot all of the tracks. Hendrik Ruud would be going out there, and as we started to close in on the guys a little bit further down, we had to pinch ourselves and remind ourselves that this is the first time in Africa Off-Road Championship Racing that they had a lineup of over 60 two-wheelers. Congratulations. Frick Haycock would be joined early on by Sandra Gray. Good to have Sandra Gray back in the mix, stepping off her customary KTM freeride and onto a bigger machine, and welcome back from late season injuries from 2017. Jonathan McLean and JG Haycock would be joined at the hip in the early couple of kilometers before someone showed their wheel and started to check out front. This time it was going to be Haycock that was doing the early leading. A little bit further back now, stretching our way outside of the top 40 qualifiers, Onno Diedrich and Rodney Serfontein would be trying to climb the ladder and break their way inside of a top 30 come the end of the day. Bradley Stannett and Andre de Beer, a couple of guys rolling out literally box fresh 2018 equipment. And for many machines and riders, this was the first time they would actually get to swing a leg and see how their new bikes were working. Andre de Beer looks like a late 2017 or early 2018 model KTM underneath his saddle. John Smith and Mornay Steinberg would go out on the number 100 and 630 respectively. The last few riders in the queue are starting to get nervous. They've been in that queue for a very long time. Van der Merwe and Wilmerons would be going out, and probably just 15 riders joining them after that before we started sending out the quads, and that would end our biggest ever start line queue situation. Gary Ferreira or Jackson on the 471 looking incredibly like Weinhard Kleinams. I'm pretty sure that's Weinhard, and he's going to be joined early on by Christian Steenman. So we'll try and pick up a little bit later on if that is Kleinams, and if it is, then he's definitely going to be a threat of those come-behind riders. Eben Venter, one of our juniors, making the step up into the 2018 season alongside Eloise Van Linden. So a small entry coming in from our ladies, but we know that we'll start picking it up and get bigger lineups as we go on through the season. Carl Skitter almost overshooting his start there, very keen to get off the mark. And Glyn for Mark on the 717 doing the chase down. Carl Skitter, not a good qualifier because he wasn't in all of the races last year, but definitely a threat to climb himself up inside of a top 20 overall come the end of the day. The final rider to go out of the gate, no one joining him, Adrian Badenhorst. A lonely first couple of kilometers. Pierre Joubert, great to have Pierre and the TRX Honda back into the racing format. He runs the 450 Honda, and he is an incredibly strong rider. He quit racing around about the halfway marker of last season, and he should be a massive threat in this championship race series. Francois Bennett on the J700. He's been the man to beat the whole way through the 2017 season, so he has a new threat, and he'll be chasing down on that Honda the whole way through the day. P.E. Kotzer, he started to show good form in the last couple of events of 2017. In fact, his best ride was at the Klerksdorp 150, so the KTM man on the P11 is going to be charging hard. Aidan Frith, one of our junior riders, he was always on the Hondas. He's made the step up onto the Yamahas, and the 29 machine is going to be one of those maybe come strong a little bit later in the season riders as he gets used to racing with the seniors. Vincent Ardendorf as well makes up one of our biggest entries in the senior quad side of things, so we'll see what the big 700 Raptor can do as he comes off the line. Lomarie Van Heerden, the first of our lady quad entries, and we know that she is going to be absolutely charging. Don't discount the ladies in quad racing. They have a knack of getting themselves up into a top 3 overall sometimes. Onto our junior lineup then. Ethan John Walker, way too keen to get off the line and leaving Marnus Kraft Jr. in his wake. A lot of the juniors, some of the names we've seen for the very, very first time, and we're so excited to welcome them to the Africa Off-Road Championship Racing family. Javert White Jr. and Scott Venter getting the job done as well as they go out on the Q27 and the S23 respectively. So round number 1 of the Africa Off-Road Championship proudly brought to you by N1 4x4 Cruiser and Toyota, your four-wheel drive experts in association with Pirelli. Just showing that the Hartbeesfontein round number 1 was going to be a absolute massive success. Our biggest ever start line queue, and everyone was out now on lap number 1. A lot of rolling crowds out there, so big support not only from the riders but spectators alike. We'll be back after the break with more racing action.